if you'll always want to look like like a twink, or if eventually you'll be like, actually, I do want to, fully. I don't want to say fully transition, but like you call it AGP maxing, or like you wear now you wear dresses and like you look just like a girl all the time, and like I'm curious to see if you'll come to that point, or if you'll always want to be pretty boy max twink kind of situation.
I mean, it depends on, how FFS turns out.
True, I guess.
Yep.
Can it take like 8 before you know that? Because like there's a lot of swelling.
Yeah, it takes about an entire year actually for swelling to go down 100%.
A whole year? Oh my god.
I mean, 90% of the swelling is gone within like 3 months, but it takes a whole year to get 100%.
Oh my goodness.
Do you have your consult scheduled already? I'll put it in my calendar.
With the facial feminization people, or
Okay. Recording started, by the way, if everybody knows. Yeah. Do either of you have your consults? You've mentioned it.
yeah, I do.
But you didn't. And then sorry, you didn't mention it.
What?
Just any consult days. I'm gonna put it in my calendar so I can wish you guys good luck.
Oh, my regular date's like next August.
Oh, you want dates? Well then I don't want dates on the recording.
Okay, fair. That's fine then. That's fine. You can just like message it to me if you want me to wish you luck. If you don't want me to wish you luck, don't tell me when it is, and I won't wish you luck.
I mean, I have two. It's like next August and next December.
Only consultations. That's not what I need the luck for.
I mean,
Oh no,
I
surgery date then.
consult. Because what if you go in and they're like, "Fuck you, no."
I'm gonna be like, fuck, I'm just gonna grab the one next door. No, seriously, they are literally two SIS surgeons right next door to each other where I'm heading to Munich. It's hilarious. Like, they're literally across the street. Yeah.
Okay. But yeah, that is interesting to see how that develops.
Yeah.
Because for me as well, I think a lot of my issues with masculinity led me to like wanting to just look non-binary or like be non-binary, and then as I get more feminine, I like to be more feminine. But it's easier to escape masculinity when you don't look like a Chad, I guess.
Yeah, the issue with being non-binary is...
TLDR, estrogen is fucking sick, and that's why transmaxing is good to go. It's the best.
I'm not sure if that's a great introduction. You just talked about you yourself being dysphoric, and then you were like, well, transmaxing is best. I love that contrast.
So in my head, transmaxing is focusing on the medical transition side of transition, as compared to the social side. Like, it doesn't really focus on the social side, but they're just trying to put estrogen in your body.
I mean, there are like social
That's the way that I look at it.
Perspective.
Because that's kind of what it says. It's like, take estrogen, don't worry about passing, don't worry about any of this. Or it's just start practicing, but like, don't start trying to pass on from day one. Just take estrogen. Like, you get a few years in, and you'll be at a lot better place to have like all these other things be well received.
Yeah, well, the reason I started girl modeling is basically peer pressure from the therapy group. I didn't want to stand out because, the whole faking dysphoria thing, and I thought that might go over better if I fit in visibly. So yeah, if it weren't for that, I wouldn't girl mode, but it's that's the reason why. Well, I don't think I'm doing too bad of a job for someone who's got no idea what she's doing. Prior to today, I actually didn't know that high-rise genes exist. So I've got literally no idea what I'm doing. But yeah.
No, honestly, same. Being a girl is really difficult because, okay, so you guys don't know this probably, but, well, maybe because I'm on this server, but I'm autistic as fuck, and I've spent my whole life learning how to be a guy, and now learning how to be a girl it's fucked, because now you have to relearn all of your social interactions, like how does a girl act in this situation. Anyways, point being, shit's difficult, and that's why I boy moded for the first like year and a half of my transition.
Yeah, okay.
So I could
Well, technically, like, okay, we gotta ask ourselves the question: when does your transition start for you?
What do you mean? Can you elaborate?
Because you said you girl moded for the first 1.5 years of your transition. Well, that's kind of hard to pinpoint if we don't know what you consider to be your starting point.
Well, I would consider it. When I started estrogen is what I referred to,
Okay.
but technically I came out a few months before I started estrogen to my close family because I'm an idiot. But it was fine. Anyways, yeah, I don't know. Technically, like since I started estrogen is what I'm saying when I say like since I started my transition, my
Well,
medical transition.
I am, of course, able to precisely, to the day, tell you when I first girl moded from the point where I started estrogen, because I documented it all. So let's
When was-
see. Where was my first time girl moding? There. I, for the first time, girl moded exactly 174 days after starting estrogen. So there's that. Useless piece of information for those who wanted it.
No, that's useful.
It's definitely useful to know, especially because I got pics of the results.
You should send them. I want to see them.
My first ever time girl mode. Okay. Here you go.
Yeah.
That was 174 days into estrogen, and at that time still on black market estrogen, mind you. This.
You
You can probably tell that I've got no idea what I'm doing, and I should probably caption those. Actually, let me delete that and say. So there we go, and now it's clear what belongs where. And by the way, Adolf, I'm fully aware that I'm being recorded, but I do not want those pictures to be published just yet.
I'm not going to publish any picture
That would
because
be nice. Thank
I
you.
am only recording the VZ
Because, you
channel.
know, from those pictures, it might be more apparent who I actually am, and then I would get problems.
No,
for
don't
what
bother about that.
for what I've said already, and for what I'm about to say, probably. Oh, by the way, if you want to get a closer look at the back, I love that one. That was actually a gift from the girl who gave me my name.
I love that bow.
What?
I just said I love the bow. It looks really cute.
Well, it's actually 13 years old, and again, it was a gift from the girl who gave me my name, but yeah, never thought I would wear it. Thought I might as well do for the first time. Actually, never wore it since, but still. If you think it's nice, maybe I should try that outfit once again.
You should. I've never worn like bows in my hair or things like that. I don't know what I'm doing when it comes to my hair because I didn't have somebody to teach me how to do my hair. So I just do my makeup and put clothes on and hope that people don't call me a he in public.
Listen, you will probably now laugh at me, but I didn't have anyone to teach me how to do that stuff with my hair either. So what I did was I asked around the people I knew, and they were basically like saying that I should try a certain stylist in the area who, well, while she doesn't specialize in transgender people, she is kind of proficient with transgender people, I would say. And so I went to that really expensive stylist, and they were like, do this, do this, do this. Or, oh, by the way, buy like $100 worth of makeup, and here's how to use the makeup, and here's how to use that. And oh, look at you, you're cute now. And I'm basically like, okay. So they basically like gave me a really thorough introduction into it all. Even demonstrating it, and when I came out of that, don't know if you know or if you have seen that picture yet, but that was basically immediately after that stylist consultation.
Did you see? Oh, there it is.
I took pictures of every time I girl moded, by the way, because you want to see the progression of competence, basically.
Yeah, and so the first picture was the first time, and then the next picture is after you got the haircut.
Yeah.
I can definitely see that they helped you in terms of like hairstyling in a way?
Yes. Although you gotta give it to me. I was able to put the bow in myself. I figured that out.
Yeah, I
It
will
only
give you
took me 4 hours. It literally took me 4 hours.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I'm not that skilled with motor skills and stuff, so it was quite a hassle. But yeah.
I'm not sure, to be honest, how much installation and stuff matters. I think because 6 females don't need to do any of that and they still be perceived as female, while if you like transition, and it's mostly something you might have to compensate with because your face doesn't really pass, and then you will have to overcompensate with makeup and stuff. And I don't think it will work all the time, to be honest. But it might, if you are close to passing, it might get you over the line.
Oh, my goal here actually isn't to pass at all. My goal is to look as visibly trans as possible. Because, well, I'm doing it to more convincingly fake gender dysphoria in a therapy group. You know? The goal wasn't to look female. The goal was to look like I want to look female. If that makes sense. And I think I accomplished that goal. Those glasses, by the way, were horrendously expensive. But hey, they do add to the picture. But yeah. Anyway, I think I'm derailing the conversation. What did you guys actually want to talk about?
No, this is good, this is good. This is...
Okay, whatever.
We lost, sorry, but we got Koala. Koala, I don't think I've met.
Oh, we two know each other. I know you, man. Ah, yeah, you're the first guy I talked to on here, all the way back when. Isn't that a lovely coincidence? Do you remember me? Do you have a microphone?
If you don't have a microphone, you can post in the VC text and it will also be recorded. No other channel.
Ah, okay, so that's basically... Oh, alright. Alright.
Adolf, I'm curious if you had anything in particular that you wanted us to talk about. Or like, you know, you were planning a recording, so like, did you have any specific...
Yeah,
Hit me with the topic, man.
I was just planning more on a general transmaxxing recording, like the concept of it, and also why I believe it is legitimate. And I think
okay.
And I think one very common...
Oh, hello.
I think one very common argument against transmaxxing is that now people will face transphobia, harassment and all that. And I do believe that this can happen, but there are ways to mitigate that. And I think for people who do not have dysphoria, it doesn't really make sense to transition unless you can pass. Eventually it might require surgery. But even in the surgery case where you might pass with surgery, it's kind of harder to justify, because then you have all this cost with having facial surgery for maybe $50,000.
So, to you, transmaxing is about passing? Question mark.
I mean, it's not necessarily required, but if you don't have dysphoria, it's kind of hard to justify unless you can pass, because otherwise you will face a lot of social issues in most areas. Because even if there are like supported people, there are people who do not support you. And there are also people who might claim to support you, but not really, because they don't really take you seriously anyway, and they treat you differently. So if you really want to like socialize like a female, you need to pass, it's required. But if you just want the breast and stuff, you might not need to pass.
Yeah, I broadly agree with that, although the question I'm most concerned with right now is, will our listeners actually know what transmaxing is? Like, do they know the concept, or do we need to do some basic explaining beforehand?
Yeah, transmaxing is the general concept where your focus with your transition is personal gain and life improvement rather than gender identity. So the general concept is that you try to get benefits in your life and improve your life, and stuff like gender identity is not really a priority, and also we don't believe that you need to be some true trans to benefit from transitioning.
Okay.
And
Define being a true trans.
yeah, the true trans concept is pretty much impossible to define, because people have different views on what counts as true trans. For some people it might be that you need to have enough dysphoria. Other people, maybe the original concept is that you need to have like a girl brain, so you have, or like a male with a female brain, so you have this body brain mismatch, and this is what makes you true trans, because you have this disconnect between your body and your brain, because you have a brain that is suited for the female while your body is male. This is really questionable, by the way, and not really supported by like much evidence. It's like there are some evidence that trans female have a feminized brain prior to HRT, but there is not really evidence that you need that to benefit from transitioning, or that it will be problems if you do not have that. But this was like the original true trans. No concept is a notion that you have like a brain meant for one sex, but your body is of another. And this is not really true, because it's not the case that you need to have like a specific brain for a specific sex. It doesn't work like that. A lot of people can adapt and function both with a male body and as a female body, even with the same brain. So you don't need like a specific brain for a specific gender. It's not how it works. But this was
Tina, sorry.
Yeah, this was the original like notion of transgender. It was like you had like a female brain in a male body, but this is not really how trans stuff works. It was like how people first thought it worked, which is understandable, because it's a simple explanation that could have been correct, but it wasn't, unfortunately.
There appears to be some... Oh no, now it's gone. Okay, great. Yeah. Someone want to ask me a question?
Yeah. Are you familiar with like the mainstream arguments, the mainstream LGBTQ arguments? Like if I use those to explain what true trans is, will you understand it?
Obviously, yes. I do, but I was asking the question more for our listeners and less for myself.
Yeah, so true trans is basically when like it's only the binary trans people are accepted. Non-binary people aren't generally accepted. Your brain is wrong and you have dysphoria, or you're not trans and you're taking away from the people who do have dysphoria. Is kind of the idea. It's like it's the one step into being okay with trans people, but not the full acceptance of trans people. Where they're like, some of you are okay, but then the rest of you, you're fucking
Yeah, I mean, that's basically how most medical systems operate, right?
Yeah,
or healthcare systems, I should say.
Yeah, most healthcare systems do this middle ground approach, which is not really justified, but a lot of healthcare people are actually outright transphobic too, but there are some who are like in between and some are supportive, but most are in this in between stuff where they are transmedicalist. This is very popular among therapists, for example, and gatekeepers, the ones already in the system. It's not really that popular like among ordinary people, because it's really only benefited this small special interest group who can gatekeep and make money off of having this session with trans people and talking to them and approving estrogen. And they do not want to like lose that right to gatekeep people, so they are the really only ones who benefit from the system.
I'm not sure what to add to that. Well, that's definitely a good summary of how of how most transmaxers perceive the medical healthcare systems, I suppose.
I don't think this is specific to transmaxers. I think this is a common frustration with the system, that A lot of people have sort of realized that this is not a good system for trans people either. Even if you have dysphoria, you still need to get approved for having dysphoria. I read like cases of people who didn't have genital dysphoria, they had like all the dysphoria, and then the therapist didn't approve them because they didn't have the right type of dysphoria. So this fucks over everyone. And it also create this long waiting times because there might be like 10 gender therapists, and these are maybe not enough for all the trans people, so everyone has to wait for this gatekeeper to like approve them for estrogen, while there is plenty of estrogen for everyone. So there is no benefit to trans medical life, there is only bad stuff from that. Because even people who have dysphoria do not benefit from that ideology at all.
It's because they're moderates in this argument, and moderates are full of shit all the time.
Like there is this middle ground approach to the Holocaust, and this is you kill 3 million Jews instead of 6 million. This is actually a popular argument against the middle ground, because often the middle ground is not correct. Sometimes it is correct. For example, with taxation, it might be correct to tax people like with 30% and not like 100% or 0%. So sometimes there is like a middle ground, but it can be like anywhere, so you don't really know until you really look at it. You cannot assume that it is like between the two major groups. I think in the case of transgender stuff, it's actually that the correct approach is more radical than even trans activists. Because transmaxxing is probably like more radical than the typical trans activists who are like a lot more careful and middle ground. Even like most people not really like transmaxxing, for example. I think that it is going too far. So I actually seen a lot of like trans people be concerned about it because they think we are pushing too far with transition. I don't believe that at all, but I can see why some people are afraid that oh no, you're being too radical now and scaring away people. It's not like how it works, but people are afraid. And they also think that maybe ordinary people can more get behind transmaxxing because it's more easy to understand the gender identity.
The concept of transmaxxing is definitely more easy to understand than the concept of gender identity, but I doubt that many people will get behind what they would most likely perceive as just people trying to fuck over the system to, well, get a better life for themselves. Yes, but at what cost?
I mean,
I think it comes with like the political beliefs behind you. Like whether you were grown up conservative or grown up more like leftist or liberal leaning. Like if you're conservative, you probably got pushed to online man spaces as a boy, which like leads to transmaxing. Like if you're pushed to inceldom, and transmaxing is one of the ways out of inceldom. Like it's part of that ecosystem. And like that's how I got here, kind of. Well, I guess that is how I got here. That's how you got here, is from what it sounds like. Like I don't know. I feel like it's just we're looking at the issue differently, because we're on different sides of the political spectrum, and then we just argue at each other.
I'm not trying to argue with you. I'm just basically trying to present counter arguments.
No. I mean like the like mainstream trans people who don't like trans. They don't like it because it isn't looking at the issue the same way as them, even though we agree on like a lot of the same things. Well, like we agree that people should be able to transition. It's just the reasoning is different. They want to lean into gender dysphoria because they're liberals, and like we don't. I mean, it's more like personal autonomy of like being able to transition.
I mean, if we go to do like a political analysis, I think maybe the left should be almost more in favor of like government control over it if you go like traditional left, while the liberal approach is more like just let people decide, while the more conservative approach is not let people transition at all. This is like if you do like traditional liberal, traditional left, traditional conservative. But then, of course, as we know, this is not really always how it works, because all these camps kind of move in different directions, and it's not really consistent with the original, like, more basic idea with liberalism and leftism. But if you're going to, like, maybe define leftists are trying to make stuff equal, then we do want control over who can transition or who are not allowed to transition because we want to take care of people. And this is like the traditional left-wing stuff that we want to protect people from doing a mistake. This might not be like the American left today, because the American left is like a mixture between left-wing stuff and liberalism. So it's not really like traditional left-wing ideology. Like, especially
That's true.
not.
My scale is off because we're so far to the right in America.
Yeah, and I don't actually think America is that far to the right, to be honest. I think it's it's semi-far right economically, but not really too, because Europe is kind of moving in that direction slowly. Like even Sweden is
What about
reducing.
the fundamentalism?
Yeah,
Like,
that's,
doesn't that push us to the right? I thought I apologize. I
I
thought that's
mean,
what you were saying.
Christian fundamentalism is not really super right-wing traditionally, because the thing is, Christianity inherently is not really right-wing. It's more like left-wing if you're going by the Bible and taking care of people and loving your neighbor and all that stuff. That's not really right-wing. So if you go and like right-wing stuff is like no, we are not going to waste money on taking care of poor people. We spend it on the military instead, and like we invade other countries. That this doesn't really exist. Even Republicans don't say that we should like take money from the poor and let people die. They say that we can take care of the poor by allow them to get a job. And this is like what the Republicans try to do, that they try to create work so people can get a job instead of living on welfare. This is what the Republicans really want. They want people to go from welfare to working. They do not really want people to starve to death or anything like that, to be honest. They just like...
I think a lot of the regular people might believe that, but I think our political leaders do legitimately want like certain people to be killed or like certain people to die. I think the political leaders, or it's not even that they want that, they're financially motivated to represent that.
I mean, Republicans might sort of want some people to like die because they might be
Like
seen
us,
as a
like me,
liability.
like right here, real life, right now, Adolf. They don't like me as a trans person. Have you seen that clip of the preacher that was like, the gay people should be seen in a court of law and lined up and shot in the back of the head? And that's Texas. That was a different state. But like, that's what they're doing here. I don't know. I'm scared. Sorry, I don't mean to make this about me, but
Yeah,
they do want some of us dead.
I mean, there are people like that. This is like extreme right, and the thing is, right and left can be defined on different things. But the difference I am using is that if you have a super hierarchical society where you have very different treatment of people, like some people are like have to participate in gladiator games or die in the wars and stuff and be executed for whatever reason, while other people can be very rich and powerful. This is like traditional right-wing stuff, that you have a very unequal society where some people are at the top and dominate, and other people are at the bottom where less right and stuff. This is not really that much from the Republican. They might be sort of moving in that direction, but like traditional like Republican politics is not really about it, because they are more like limited government and stuff. They don't.
Hey, Tinny.
Hi, everyone.
Oh, hi.
You guys are talking.
We're recording, by the way.
You're recording? Okay, cool. Thanks for letting me know. You guys are talking about voice training?
No, we are
Transmaxxing.
No.
Yeah, transmaxxing, and we go out into American politics, which is interesting. You have this Christian fundamentalists, and then you have like the more traditional people who just want lower taxes on the Republican side. Then you have like anti-immigration people who might not even care about trans people. And then you have like the libertarians who want like a super small government. These people like sort of gravitate towards each other on the Republican Party. This is why their platform is so messed up, because they have these different groups in the same party who like have to ally themselves with each other, and then they can influence each other also. So for example, the low tax people, they end up like convincing the anti-immigration people to get on their side, because the anti-immigration people just want less immigration and they don't really care about the tax policy and welfare. And then the anti-immigration people just want less immigrants. They don't the low tax people just want like lower taxes and don't care if immigrants are screwed over. This is like the alliance on the Republican side. They are like allied with each other to and it is successful because the ones who want low tax that don't care about immigrants, and the ones who want less immigrants don't care about the taxes. And this is like how we built a coalition in the United States. You have a party that have different factions where they are okay with the compromise, because each side, each group get what they want and don't really care about the other stuff. So, and this is also really dangerous, because in that case some new group can just push it in the new direction, and the others don't really care because they only care about this special interest policy. They are like the stuff they care about. And this is I believe also why this wasn't originally the case, but it went to the direction that parties in favor of low taxes also wanted less immigration. And it is not traditional, it's just that it was a way for the parties who want to tax cut for the rich to get they attract like the ordinary people. And this is how the Republicans ended up winning again under Trump.
Well, honestly, I can't comment on that because I've got no idea about American politics.
Yeah, it's not the same in Germany really. I actually think the AfD party is also low taxation. They were in the first at least.
Well, what I'm asking myself is the wider political spectrum of politics even relevant for the transmaxer today? Because what we gotta consider here is right now nobody wants us. The right doesn't want us because they don't like trans people, and the left does not want us because transmaxing is evil.
The thing is also that the right in Europe is not necessarily anti-trans. For example, in Sweden, the moderate party and the Christian Democrats, they are not really anti-trans. Actually, it was kind of the opposite. They actually passed pro-trans stuff, and they're of a conservative, not really conservative, over like center-right government. The social Democrat party has actually been horrible for trans people. So I don't really trust them at all with that. And even like today, under like the left, center-left government actually fucked over trans people by trying to restrict access to hormones for people under 18. So we don't really see that in Sweden. The left here don't, or more accurately the government who are like center-left don't really care about trans people because they are like a small group. And also like the left are more into like gender abolitionists. Traditionally they're not really like into gender roles. So they don't really do anything for trans people that really helps at all really. It might be different in other countries. Like in the United States, Democrats are actually like trying to help trans people for real. Or it's more like...
Yeah, well, I can't comment on any of this because as a transmaxer myself, I never concerned myself with the political situation. I just worked with it as it is. And I advise any other future transmaxers to do that as well, because political activism simply takes too long for you to yield useful results. You gotta work with what you got when you get started, and don't expect much change to happen.
I mean, I do agree that you shouldn't expect like big change. I also believe that for so many people, being like politically active will make them feel better. They will like give confidence. They will feel better of the situation, make them less depressed because they're doing something about it. Even if it will not have effect right now, they are at least doing something to try to improve the situation for the future. And I do agree that it might not be very effective, like logically, like it's the same with voting. It might make you feel good, but it doesn't really matter logically. I didn't vote, for example, but if you're like desperate and want to change, I can see that being active in some political stuff, even if it isn't super effective, it is like therapeutic at least. So I'm not opposed to people being politically active. I think it's good that we work towards a better future, even if it is not for now. But
I'm
it's
not
for
opposed to people being politically active either. I'm just saying for all the transmaxers out there, don't focus on the politics, focus on yourself.
I mean, I don't think there is a contradiction there. You can be better focused on politics and still live a good life and take care of yourself, unless you go like overboard. Like you should like join the war in Ukraine or anything like that. But if you just run a server or run a subreddit or do a YouTube channel, I think that's just fine and not really a disadvantage in your life in any way. So I don't really agree with the notion that there is this choice between.
What I'm saying is don't rely on political activism to make your way to a successful transition easier.
I agree
what
with
I
that,
was
of
trying
course,
to
that politics is for the future, it's not like for your life now. I think it's more relevant for people who have like children and stuff, that's because then you build a better future for them. It's not really so much for your own life always.
Well, okay, at that point I gotta ask, because that largely depends on what I think we should talk about. Who is gonna be listening to this? Who is the target audience of this recording? Because well, I don't think we should focus so much on people who think about the future. Shouldn't we get more people interested in transmaxing basically now?
I mean, I think that a lot of people do care about the future and others do not, and I think we should try to attract both. Like we have a politics channel here in the server, and many people do use that, so many people obviously do care about politics and stuff and want to be active, while others do not want that. And I think both are fine. Like if you don't want to be politically active, that's totally fine, and other people can be active for you. And this is enough. Maybe you don't even have to vote if you don't want to.
Enough.
Something we should maybe cover. Have you read the Transmaxxing manifesto?
Ooh, me?
Kat and Tina.
No, I didn't read it.
You haven't read it yet?
No. No. And honestly, I don't really plan on doing that, because transmaxing already gave me all I need. Sorry to say that, but I'm not all that
I'm curious
interested.
to read it. I'd like to read it sometime.
Yeah,
and
sure.
look over it. I don't know. Did you write it, Adolf, or?
I did write, I think most of it. There were testimonials written by other people, some text written by other people, but I was the sole editor of the Transmaxxing manifesto.
Okay, well, if you could, I don't know where it is or where I could find it, but if you could direct me towards it, that'd be great.
I'm linking it in a beta text, so you can read it.
Choose the power of 9.
I'm playing a game right now, but I'll definitely read it later.
Yeah, that's fine.
Choose the power of 9. What's your nationality?
I do not understand your language. Please at least attempt to speak English.
2 to the power of 9. 2 to the power of 9.
2 to the power of 9.
Yeah, you know who I'm talking about, right?
No.
Yeah, it's
No, 15, 12, right? 51, 2.
Yeah, you're talking about.
What's your nationality? Or Swedish, Norwegian?
I'm Swedish. I already answered it 2 times at least.
So we are rich.
I'm going to mute
Sorry,
if
what?
you talk this nonsense. I don't have time.
How much money you make in your? No, how much money you made in the last 10 years?
I'm going to mute you.
Thank
Sorry.
you. You know, it might not be all that advisable to conduct public recordings intended for public release. The public the voice channel open to the public.
This is not the public voice channel, it's actually the semi-private one. You need to be like semi-approved or better for getting access. They can just mute people who are annoying, so I don't really care. And also this went on for some time, like most people start watching like the first 5 minutes anyways, it doesn't really matter what we say now. So now we can like waste time with politics and stuff.
Wait. Yeah, I got nothing to add to that, sorry.
I can actually read the transmaxxing manifesto. They're like the first page, they have 18 points, and then you can say if you like agree that this is like a benefit most people will get.
Yeah, we can do that, sure.
Point 0, sexual excitement from having a feminine body.
So, just in case someone doesn't know what you're reading there, you're reading the list of advantages
That you
of
can
male
get.
to female transition, EA
Yeah.
transmaxing,
They
right?
are not guaranteed advantages. How many people do you think like this will apply to? Is this the most people?
Okay, the list of potential advantages of a male to female transition.
Yeah.
Great. So now everybody knows what that is. Yeah, please continue or What?
Wait, I was gonna something.
Oh, sorry.
With the meant to female body tidbit. I mean, that would only really apply to like gynophilic transmaxers. Wouldn't you agree?
I think for the most part, but it's not really that simple because sexuality is more complicated than that. But I think it's mostly like if you're attracted to females, you might like enjoy having this female body. But if you're not really attracted to that, it's not really a benefit for the most part. You might be like be excited because if you have this feminine body, you can think about like what men are going to do with you. But I think generally, yeah, it's mostly like for males who are attracted to females at first.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say that even. I mean, I'd say I'm primarily androphilic, like entirely, but I'd say I guess I don't feel sexual excitement from having like a feminine body, but I do feel, I mean, I think this might just be dysphoria being alleviated, but I feel like contentment and I feel like at home in my body. So I guess.
Yeah, there's dysphoria alleviation.
Probably, yeah. Because I don't have that at all. Just feels like always.
Yeah, so it's like same as before, then it's just less dysphoria.
Yep,
Okay.
perfect. You were saying, Adolf?
I wasn't saying. We can go to the next point now. This is the superiority of female aesthetics. And this is kind of like you think female aesthetics is better and stuff. This is kind of more a general point. I'm not sure if anyone wants to comment on that. Otherwise, we will go over to the next. And this is access to the transbian dating pool.
Yeah, with a caveat. The problem with that is that where most trans people, or at least most trans people I have met, dislike the concept of transmaxing, if they at all know what that is. And the thing is that if you're a transmaxxer, at some point, if you're dating a trans person, you might want to open up to them and feel the need to, be honest for once. That could result in significant relationship complications, is I think the word I'm going to use. So keep that in mind. The trans dating pool is great, but with that caveat.
Yeah, I think also something to add with it is that the smaller your city are, the more difficult it will be, because if there are no other trans people where you live, then you still cannot find someone else. But if it's a large city, then you can find someone who are more like you, or maybe also into more like not really dysphoric, just into it for like the transmaxxing view, and then it's a lot easier because you can find someone who like are in the similar views about transitioning and stuff. So I think that depends on your area. Like the bigger it is, the better is pretty much when it comes to this point. And then point 3 and 4 it is that you can get better organs. I'm not sure if you have experienced it, that become more powerful, and that for the also the entire body, and if you can get multiple organs. This is something that you don't have to ask for this because this is being recorded. But from what I heard, this happens to some people while others not really get it. So
yeah. It didn't happen to me as of yet, and for reference, today is my there we go. Today is my 235th day of HRT.
yeah,
So
then it's not going to happen probably. You did not get
Yeah,
that benefit
probably.
from it. Then point 5 is that you will feel emotions stronger and be happier on estrogen.
do I feel emotions stronger? Yes. Does that make me happier? No.
Yeah, because it also amplifies negative emotions, I guess.
Exactly.
This kind of double edge. It's not always good. Point 6 is that you will get more sensitive breasts, and I'm pretty sure this happens to almost everyone.
Yes, that happened to me. I'm not sure if that's positive, but yeah.
Like if you want to have sex and stuff, it might be more fun that way, I think. So I did list
Sure,
as a
sure.
for
But
that
also,
list.
if you bump into things, it hurts more.
Yeah.
I remember accidentally slapping myself once there and immediately regretted it. Yeah, don't do that. Don't do that. Unless you're into that kind of shit, but I'm not.
Yeah. Then point 7 is being able to attract cis lesbians. I think this is situational and can be pretty difficult, to be honest. But it's actually someone good. But I think for some people it can work.
Yeah, I mean, the question really simply is well, for me at least, would I want that?
Yeah, not everyone wants to like this is females either.
Yeah.
Is also worth considering. I think a big issue with that might be that there is a big cultural difference, because you have lived a completely different life if you like transition late at 22 or 23 or something like that, or
Yes.
even later. Like even if you like can pass, you have a very different culture and different socialization and lifestyle and all that. So you might not really fit in with cis lesbians for that reason, even if you look like them.
I mean, you can definitely manage to look like them. That's possible. But the rest, well, I don't know about that. I wouldn't get my hopes up too high, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, then point 8 is you being able to attract high quality males. And I too think also this is situational, because
Yeah.
some people just become a lot more attractive than others. There's very big difference among trans people how attractive they become. So
Yes, especially the high quality part is what I have a problem with, because define high quality. It's kind of hard. I mean, it's kind of spectrum. you will most likely be able to attract some men. But as I can tell you from a friend from therapy group, most of those men, at least if you're not passable yet, she's not quite there yet, will not be necessarily the kind of men you want to attract. If that makes sense. Chasers and stuff like that, you can totally get that, but yeah.
Chasers is that I do not agree that chasers necessarily are bad partners. Like if they are just into that stuff and otherwise they are good mates, they might be like a good match. But I will be careful with people like that at least. I wouldn't like trust them, but like maybe if it seems like a good male in other ways, and but don't like jump into like a chase. You need to like vet him a lot, I think.
Well, I'd say that chasers are a problem regardless of whether or not you pass, to be real. I mean, obviously when you don't pass, I assume that you track those sorts of people more, but
the thing is, what makes chasers bad if it is just that their sexual preference is not really a problem, but if they are like don't want to like commit to you, don't want to like treat you well and stuff, and maybe break you up after like one time, it's not really something good. But if it is just that they have this preference for trans people or otherwise they are like good partners, I don't really see a problem.
That's fair. What I would like to add to that, however, still is that the counterpoint to being able to attract high quality males is the increased risk of, let's say, sexual molestation, for example. My friend from therapy group, or I wouldn't call her friend, the girl that I met in therapy group, has by now been molested 2 times. Yeah, it apparently isn't great. It hasn't happened to me so far, but I'm not into men and I'm not really looking for relationships. So if you're doing transmaxing for that, it might some things might happen to you that you don't want to happen. That's worth considering.
Yeah, I think like if you are transitioning, like even if you don't pass, it will happen like eventually, like if you are like in public spaces on trails and stuff, because there are a lot of males. So, and it doesn't even have to be that you are like attracted to that. There might be like transphobic harassment too. So you have to be prepared for that. It can actually happen like even if you are like male. So I think it's lower risk, I think, significantly.
Okay.
Then point 9 was that there is less softer skin and less no acne. I think the second part might not actually be true. I'm not sure. You can comment on it.
Less softer skin or more softer skin?
You have softer skin and less.
Okay,
no
more
acne.
soft skin.
Yeah.
Okay. That I can that I can agree with. I got that. My skin is now softer. I'm not sure if that's a positive. Guess some people like it. I just don't care. Do I have less acne? Well, I will let you guys here who can see the selfies chat be the judge. The short answer is yes, probably.
But that might like happen regardless if you like age. So I'm not sure if it's like HRT benefits, but it's something that might happen at least.
Right, I think it happened to me, although I also use a lot more skincare than I used before. Before I used basically none, and now I've got like cleansers and like something specifically for unclean skin and a bunch of stuff. I basically moisturizer and then a bunch of stuff that I basically never considered while still being male, so to say. So it might not actually be HRT, but all the other stuff you put in your face. I'm not sure. But yes.
Generally, I mean, when you start hormones, it lowers androgens, which can like an increase, like if you have an excess of those, it can cause acne. So yeah, if you don't have as many androgens in your bloodstream, I guess, I don't know, in your body, then you're going to be less prone to developing oily skin, which then therefore leads into acne. So for most people, hormones, I'd say like 90% of people I've spoken to, maybe like 99 to be real, that I've spoken to, have a lot better skin after hormones.
Yeah,
Okay,
so that's
that
good to
makes
know.
sense.
The
Because
downsides are that hormones can dry your skin out since you're not producing as much oil. So, I mean, but that's easily fixable with moisturizer.
that's good to know, because then it's a legitimate benefit, so I should keep it in the next version too. Then point 10 is really controversial, and this is that you might actually live longer because of the hormones themselves. And I will like to clear that it might not really apply on average, but if you don't get killed or something, you might actually live longer because you age better on female hormones. And this was actually a mice study, but not a human study, so not like super good evidence, but it's the best we have, I think.
Yeah, I mean, women live longer on average, yes, but now we're getting into that argument: are trans women really women in that sense that they could benefit from that? Because, well, the first major health risk that all trans women all trans women do endure at some point is HRT itself. Like it's not like it can't take a toll on your health. That's why endocrinologists and doctors are always so interested in your blood work.
The thing is, when it comes to like the health risk with HRT, it is mostly blood clotting, and this is depending on how you take your hormones. It's lowest if you, for example, inject it into you at a low doses, and you like minimize your blood clotting risk. But for various reasons, people often don't want to do that if they transition, and even if you are like a normal dose, it's actually safer than taking birth control as a cis female, because the hormones in hormonal birth control is actually a lot more dangerous than what it is for trans people, because what we caused there were these issues when trans women took this etanyl estradiol. It stopped being given for that reason, but interestingly for they did not really change it for cis females for I think it's because birth control is politically accepted. It's difficult to question it because it goes against feminism, while it is like politically like very much accepted that you try to like keep trans people safe. But because there is no really safer option for hormonal birth control, you don't really see that difference or like effort to like get rid of it.
That's a fair point, I guess.
But
Yeah.
anyway, what the study found was that when the mice were giving these female hormones, they actually lived longer, same as female mice when they were born male. So it's actually the hormones who cause the difference in how long people live if they are like not killed or something. Or like die from taking risk and stuff, which can happen for other reasons.
Yeah, I'm gonna go so far as to say that I'm not satisfied with that. I mean, mice and humans, those are two different species with
Yeah,
two
of
completely
course.
different sexual dimorphic divergences.
And the thing is, it doesn't really prove it, but it does indicate that the hormones
Yes.
will make a big difference at least. So, but it's not like super good evidence, unfortunately, because it might not be the same for humans. It might be, but we don't really know yet, because it's like the best we have. This my study. And then we go with the point I think you don't agree with, is being able to extract resources from males. For example, you might
Oh, I absolutely agree with that.
You might
I absolutely agree with being able to do that.
But
Just look at Kim again. Know how many gifts she got? She's basically living off her OnlyFans account. Can definitely extract resources from males. The question is, should you?
Yeah, that's the thing that I think you might disagree with, that you shouldn't do that. And here I think you might not really agree with transmaxxing, because the notion of transmaxxing is the personal gain aspect. And then of course you want to do that if you can, like if it is like more benefits than cost. For example, not everyone want to like run OnlyFans, for example.
Yeah, exactly. They don't want to do that, and I don't think people should do that, because what you're basically doing is you're exploiting men. Because the reason for why men give money to those girls on OnlyFans, for example, is because they are lonely, depressed, and well, incels most likely, in some form or another. And then do you really want to now come in and take their hard-earned money away? I don't think that's fair.
I think you do want to take the money away, because otherwise they just give it to someone else instead. So it better go to you.
Yeah, I don't feel bad about that at all, to be honest.
Sorry?
I don't feel bad about guys spending money on OnlyFans at all. That's their money. They have the right to do whatever they want.
Yeah, of course they got the right to do that, but isn't it kind of sad that they then end up believing those girls they spend their money on are their virtual girlfriends? Which they are not.
Yeah, but the thing is, people have kind of themselves to blame too. Like, there comes a point where you cannot just protect people from their own stupidity all the time either. Like, it's just don't really care.
It's not the stupidity that makes them do that. Their loneliness.
I do think it's the stupidity, to be honest, because if it was just loneliness, they could do something much better for the same amount of money. So no, I think they are just irrational and not really smart people. They are stupid people, maybe high IQ in some cases, but they cannot really think clearly about the stuff. And that might be a difference, because I never did that in my life, and I will never do it regardless of like dating situation and all that.
Well, I still wouldn't go so far as to call those people stupid. The way I see it, the problem of male loneliness largely has two causes, and the first cause is there aren't enough women. The birth rate gap that I always mention is there are 106 men for every 100 women in the world, so 6 men are obviously left out. They will never find a partner because there are not enough partners to find, and thus they become lonely, understandably. And the second reason for why I think we shouldn't capitalize on male loneliness is because the loneliness is largely amplified by the sex drive gap. Men have a higher sex drive on average, and thus are sexually dependent upon women, assuming that they're straight, obviously, to some degree. And I think this dependence is in itself so unfair that I personally can't really justify it in my set of moral beliefs. I don't want to capitalize on that, because they can't do anything about that or against that. In fact, the whole point of me transmaxing is to show that there might be a way to do something against that.
But the thing is,
that's why I got started, so I'm definitely not gonna exploit those poor souls I'm trying to save here.
But the thing is, most people do not want to be saved. They do not actually want to love a sex drive. Like, for example, if you go like on the NoFap subreddit, you see that they actually do the opposite. Like, it makes themselves more horny to like think that it will help them like get a girlfriend if they are more motivated. So they don't want to do that at all.
Yeah, I'm sorry, but that's where the stupidity comes in. I think those people, with all due respect, guys, I think you might have misidentified your actual cause of the source of the problem. To say that you're not motivated enough to find a girlfriend is it's probably not the reason, because there are many people who were not motivated at all who get laid. There are also many people who are motivated to get laid, but motivation alone doesn't get you laid. There are many other outside factors and of course personal factors. Social competence comes to mind. Sorry, but most incels are just completely socially incompetent, and that doesn't help. So what I propose is, how about you just stop finding a girlfriend and instead try to somehow be content with not having one ever. Now the question obviously is, how can you do that? You can't. You've got a sex drive that compels you to get a girlfriend. You got
you heard
needs and desires.
missing something really
Sorry?
important here, and this is that it's not just that people want a girlfriend. Most males want to have someone to have a family with too, and this is like super important to most males, like 90% at least. So they are never going to like transition for that reason. Like even if they are lonely, they're not going to like they might not think about the possibility of banking spot, but even if they know about it, they still don't want to, because they still think that they have a better opportunity to have a family if they stay male. I think that might be the case for me at least.
Okay, yeah, good point. It's obviously not something for people who want to have a family, but transitioning and having a family, that on its own is still difficult enough. So there's that, and at some point you really gotta ask yourself, is a family that important to your own personal well-being? Or are you self-centered enough to say that really the most important person in your life is you, and not the hypothetical children you do not have yet? I think that's worth considering. Like, if you really 100% positive that you can't attract a girl, and you know that you're an incel, then you know you won't get children, whether you want to or not.
But the thing
At that
is,
point,
people
might it
don't
not just be better?
want to give up hope. They want to like keep struggling and fighting for this small 2% and 5% chance. And this is very common among males, that they will like keep trying even when there's really no hope. Like look at in wars, for example, there's so many cases where some country keep fighting when they are totally lost and no chance of winning, like in the Second World War, for example. Like Germany, even when the borders were at Berlin, they still like kept up this war that didn't really make sense anymore, or maybe never made sense probably. So people will often keep fighting when it's not really beneficial, because people don't want to give up naturally. This is very common among males especially.
I mean, yeah, sure. Nobody wants to give up, and I think we shouldn't frame transmaxing in a sense that it's giving up. It's obviously giving up on the possibility of having a family. That said, even if you transmax, you might be able to still bank sperm. So not even completely, but mostly. Yes. It's mostly giving up on the idea of having a family.
I think
But what it's not
be
doing is giving up on the idea of living a happy love life someday.
Yeah,
You might not be a man anymore, but as we already mentioned, that opens up a couple new dating pools, a couple new nice people in there, and well, you might find that you don't want to date anyone anymore. There is this beautiful saying, if you can't get the girl, become the girl. Maybe that applies to you, in which case you're all set with yourself. So I think that's one of the perhaps largest incentives to transmaxing.
yeah,
The possibility of self-sufficiency.
I think for many people it might not apply to everyone, but some people can just like enjoy just looking themselves at the mirror and seeing this beautiful girl. Just that itself might be like
Exactly.
a big motivation. And not everyone will get there, of course. Unfortunately, this is maybe the biggest issue is that you have a bit limited time span where you can really benefit from transitioning. Before that, it's mostly it's often if you like transition early, you don't even need to have facial surgery. You can just take hormones and that's it, and you look fine.
Yeah.
And if your transition may be between 18 and 21, you might pass, but you need to have like facial surgery. And after that, you might not be able to like pass at all, even if you have like facial surgery. It's not enough. I'm not sure how difficult it is like after 25, but it will be. I think many people cannot like pass at all. Depends on the surgeon too, like how skillful he or she is.
I actually know a girl, she started at 27 and she doesn't want to get FFS because she feels like she doesn't need it. And sadly, I haven't got pictures of her, but I can tell you from looking at her, I feel like she doesn't need it as well. Lucky bitch, that one.
Yeah, people have very different facial traits too, so some people have a much easier time for that reason. So it's very individual how easy it is to transition. And I think this is something people overlook, that it's not the same experience for everyone. So what works for
Sure.
someone or what doesn't work, this doesn't necessarily translate to someone else, because every transition will be different.
That's just background noise. Yeah, no, I agree with that. Every transition is different to some extent, but I think we should leave the people some hope. So you can absolutely reach passing level even after 25. Can do it at 27. I think you can also do it at 30. It's possible. It's just rare. But if you are willing to take a 5% chance of getting a girlfriend, you might as well just take the 5% chance of being able to pass after, say, 30. So for the way I see
I
it.
don't think this is just random. I think you can like estimate that based on your facial traits, and also you
Of
can
course.
look up like surgeons to see if you can be fixed. There's also like stuff like how to consider, like if you are like body, if you frame and stuff, if that is too masculine, that might be also be a problem. I think it's less often a problem than the face. I think the face is usually the biggest issue. Like even if your height is like often due to people who know how tall females are, like not everyone will think about that, I think. So they might like be perceived a female anyway, because people don't think that, oh no, he must be a male, he must be born male because he's like 6'2", or in what is it in centimeters? It is 190 maybe, something like that.
Sorry, I didn't understand that last part. The background noise was kinda
Yeah, what I said was that even if you are like too tall to like
Yes.
to be between the normal female range, not everyone will notice that, because it's not what people focus on. People look at the face the most, not your hands or how tall you are and stuff like that. Or
No,
don't.
absolutely not. I would go so far as to say most people don't notice that, because the thing is, most people don't have that good of an idea of how tall women can get. And if you're otherwise passing and the only problem is your height, well, I don't think you've got a problem at all. Another example from my therapy group. Damn, I like the people in that therapy group. Did I mention that? Luna is 2 meters 5 tall. So 2 meters 5 centimeters. Not 2.5, but yeah, 2 meters and 5 centimeters tall, and she passes beautifully. It's absolutely brilliant. She's actually the only one in the therapy group who reaches consistent passing level, and it's astounding. Like, people just don't care about her height because everything else fits. Oh, of course, everything else got to fit. Like, you definitely gotta put more effort in if you're incredibly tall, but you can do it. And she looks absolutely stunning. I mentioned that I want to get fucked by her. No, that's I didn't say that on record, did I? Or I just did. Yeah, well,
Yeah.
she's got his girlfriend.
Yeah, if you want, I can like send it to you, and you can like cut off stuff you don't want to have published if you want. But
Nah, it's all right. It's all right. Nobody knows who Luna is anyway. For now.
yeah, then we are at point 12, and this might also not really be true, but this is notion that you will no longer be driven to dangerous and idiotic thing due to testosterone. And I didn't really specify the mechanism here, and there are actually several ones. One, for example, is that the sex drive itself might cause males to take risks that to get laid, that it's not worth it.
Transitioning and risk taking. Did I notice that I have become more risk adverse? No. Do I think that some people might become more risk adverse? Yes. Although I would argue that transmaxing in itself is taking a big risk. So you're taking that risk while you're on testosterone. Then you continue to take that risk while you're on estrogen. Is continuing to take that risk in itself not risky behavior? Like, if estrogen would make you less susceptible to risk-taking behavior, wouldn't estrogen cause you to stop transmaxing? Does that make sense?
I mean, the thing is, normal cis females take risks all the time. It's just that they
Yes.
might be like less prone to like gambling and stuff. Like, for example, if you look at rich people who like play slot games and go to casinos, stuff, there's a lot of males who like lose their life savings on casino and stuff. And also like stuff, for example, like taking physical risk with hypothesis, males thing, mostly like climbing is mostly males that die, I think. Without even looking it up, I'm pretty sure that. But the thing is, often with this like risk taking, the risk might not actually be that great. For example, with skateboarding, like you might injure yourself, that happens all the time, but it's not actually that many people who die from it.
Yes, that's definitely a good point. Oftentimes, what we perceive as being risky isn't all that risky, and it might be that men are more driven to risk-taking behavior simply because doing risky stuff is cool, and they might not even realize that the stuff they're doing isn't actually as risky as they think it is. So yeah, maybe the difference in risk-taking behavior isn't such a huge deal anymore. At least not when it comes to serious or to risk of serious injury and stuff like that.
I mean, there are really bad stuff like some males become criminal and stuff, but that makes me more about like being in a bad social situation, like males are desperate to because they end up homeless or at the bottom, and then they have like nothing to lose, while females have a better social safety net and are less prone to like join gangs and stuff.
Yeah, like if you're at a point where you got nothing to lose, why not take risks? Because what can you lose? Well, nothing. Yeah, so I think you got a good point there. Males might be driven to more risk-taking behavior simply because they got less to lose, oftentimes. I mean, we also see that in society in general. The people who take the most risks are the people who have the least to lose. Robbing a bank, huge risk. Who does rob a bank? Poor people. Incredibly poor, incredibly desperate, incredibly done with life people.
I mean,
They take that risk because...
I mean, there are wealthy people who do take risks like with businesses and stuff, but it's usually like calculated risk, but it's worth the risk.
Exactly.
I mean, there are wealthy people who do take risks like with businesses and stuff, but it's usually like calculated risk.
Exactly.
I mean, there are wealthy people who do take risks like with businesses and stuff, but it's usually like calculated risk, but it's worth the risk. And even like poker plays and stuff, they sure they take a risk, but it's calculated and they make sure that it is like in their benefit to take that risk. While people often at the bottom of society, like poor people, they might take risk and gamble, while it's not long-term beneficial, like it's not positive effective value from their bets. They just desperate and take like a long shot, like lottery and stuff. That is not worth it at all. I think that the difference between rich and poor is that the rich take risks, but they are calculated and good risk to take most of the time, not always.
Yeah. So you're basically saying if you take risks, then take calculated risks. Yeah, I agree with that. And I do think that it's beneficial for even people on estrogen to consider taking a risk every now and then, because, well, with risk comes the possibility of gain. And that's obviously great, right? So yeah, maybe that lowering or being less prone to risk-taking behavior isn't that much of a benefit at all.
Yeah,
All depends
it
upon
might
what
not even-
risk-taking behavior you plan to engage in. I
It
think.
might not even change that much on hormones, to be honest. It might be that you might be less prone to like act out in desperation if your life is going in order, but it might be more about like you're fixing your life on a good plan and then you're less desperate, so it might be more about that than like mental changes. Then the next point was people stop and reverse hair loss. And
Well,
did it happen
tell you
to
all about that, can't I? Did it reverse hair loss for me? Probably not. Did it slow hair loss? I would say so, yeah. When I had that hairdresser appointment I mentioned earlier, they actually were quite surprised to see some hairs. Well, they called it coming back. I think that's not technically possible on HRT, but they were quite surprised to see some solid growth where it appears there was none before. And I think that's due to estrogen, because what else would it be due to? So yes, I do think that estrogen helps you with hair problems a lot.
I have, from what I understand, it will actually reverse it, not just like stop the decay.
Well, then I'm in luck.
So maybe it did happen to you, which is nice.
Yeah, it is. I hope it's gonna happen some more.
Yeah, I think it might be, to be honest.
Hmm?
Then point 14 is that people will treat you better if they think you're female, and this, of course, you need to pass for this.
Oh yeah, that's the hard one for me to answer. I'm not at the passing stage yet. From what I can gather, possibly. Well, they will basically treat you like a woman. If that's always better, I can't say. It's definitely better in some situations.
Yeah, the situational too. I think overall it's better for most people.
Yes, I agree with that. It's definitely better for most people to be treated like women are generally treated. But there are obviously some exceptions. But yes, in general, you're probably leveling up. That is, if you're passing, because if you're not passing, then they will treat you like a trans woman. Now that's an interesting point to consider. There are chances involved here, so you gotta consider your chance of passing. Now we gotta ask ourselves: is being treated like a trans woman actually that bad? Or is being treated like a trans woman actually still better than being treated like a man? Especially a man of low social value, of low social status.
That's really interesting. I think it's very depending on your culture and also the legal situation. Like if you have like anti-hate crime laws and stuff like that, if when the people like are pro-trans where you live and support, it might not be that bad. It might actually be better than being like perceived as a male.
Let me
And-
quickly grab some water. I will be right back.
Yes.
Okay, I'm back with water. Told you it would be quick.
Yeah, point 15 is that you might actually be less likely to get killed if you transition. And this is actually based... This is a bit controversial because it was
Yes.
like based on a single study and people, it might not be correct and all that. But it was this study showing that trans women are actually less likely to get killed than males.
Well, I can't comment on that. I haven't read much on that.
Yeah, but
I, for one, think I'm not likely to be killed at all. I don't think I'm the primary target of violence.
yeah, and it might be worth saying that the best strategy to reduce your risk to be killed is probably just to move to a safer location. For example,
Yeah.
Europe is much safer than United States in that regard.
Absolutely, yes. And I live in a pretty safe city. I mean, we have a fair share of violent crime, yes. But every city, every larger city has that to some extent. And I don't feel threatened here, so I don't see why I should feel threatened as a woman or even as a trans woman. Like, for example, I use public transportation a lot, and I use public transportation when girl moding to go to therapy and stuff, and nobody ever bat an eye, even when I had that trans pride necklace on, and I don't feel threatened at all, is what I'm saying. I don't think that the world is that threatening to trans people, especially trans women, as your usual lefty trans woman make it out to be. And thus
No,
I don't
no.
think trans Marxists should fear that as well. I don't think that's at least for my city, for my state, for my country, all that much of a concern.
The other thing is, like, even people who have like an issue with trans stuff, it's not worth it to like get into legal trouble just to like for some political stuff. Like, it's the same with the Nazis, for example. Like, there are like in the Swedish election there were like 3,000 Nazis who voted for like the open Nazi party, and they are not most of them will not go around and killing people because they don't want to end up in jail, even though they want to like have other people die
Yes.
and stuff.
Yes, loads of people might have fantasies about killing all trans folk, but most of them don't end up doing it. For the simple reason that it would fuck their lives over as well. So not everyone is a mass murderer. I do think that transitioning even in less trans-friendly states, spaces, and countries could be worthwhile. What I'm trying to say the whole time is I don't think the threat of actual physical violence is as great as people make it out to be.
Yeah, and this is actually shown in this study that they actually looked at the numbers and they actually found it to be lower on average for trans women than for
Yep.
men. So of course you can discuss if it's really lower and all that, but overall it's not this trans murder epidemic that some people claim there is.
Yes.
And then there is point 16, this is access to female spaces like shower rooms and bathroom and all that, and this might not always apply, it depends on where you live and stuff.
Yeah, it also I'm not the best person to talk about that with, because while some others in my trans therapy group mentioned difficulties adjusting to female changing rooms and female showers and that kind of thing, believe it or not, I don't usually visit any kind of public showers. I don't go to the gym and stuff. I also don't usually visit female changing rooms unless I try on new clothes. It's pretty much the only time I invade the female-only space, so to say. and as of yet, I think nobody even noticed that I'm in there. Yeah, I don't have much exposure to those female-only spaces. So I don't feel qualified to comment on that.
Yeah, this might be uncomfortable, like if you cannot pass, some people might take issue with and stuff, so it might be like not something you want to push early in your transition. And
although, the one thing I want to say about that is, I'm the perfect example of being able to avoid contract with such spaces. So if you feel that you might have an issue with going to female-only spaces and then being shunned by those females there, then most of the time you can avoid it. Just don't use public showers. If you can at all do it, shower at home after gym and then stuff like that. Don't use female changing rooms. In Germany, most often you can take clothes home with you and then bring them back the next day if they don't fit. So most of the time you can avoid having to visit female spaces.
I mean, in a lot of places you even have like private rooms and stuff. I, for example, haven't like used rooms like that since forever. Like I never visit these places. The last time was like years ago when I was visiting Iceland with my relatives there, and it was for the Blue Lagoon, and I looked after my younger, the child of my mother's sister, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
No, the grandchild of, no, the child of my sister was it, yeah. So this is was one time I used that, and I actually never like shower naked in these places because for obvious reasons.
Yeah, like that's the other thing, like I don't get why people like to shower naked in public showers. Like if I want to look at other people's genitals, I might as well watch porn. I might as well get to see some nice genitals. Well, anyway, that's what I can't get that, and yeah, if I were you, I would just avoid female-only spaces, not actively try to get into them. Although I will say that some female-only, or actually only one female-only event I attended was actually a trans female-only event. It was a grill party, was pretty nice, but that's about as far as my exposure to female-only stuff goes. I generally try to be inclusive of men as well because I like them. There's that.
Yeah. And what should I say about that? Like you say that there's not so much. Well, I think the biggest benefit is that if you find like males repulsive, I for example don't really like seeing males naked at all. So for me it will maybe be a benefit in that I don't need to see like other males, but this was like once one time like 3 years ago, and that's about it, so it doesn't really matter for my life.
I don't like naked males either. Now that I think about it, most naked women don't look that nice either. But the thing is, if you don't want to see naked males, I think you got enough opportunities to just avoid those already.
Yeah.
It's not like people run around naked in the streets all day. At least not last time I checked.
We actually only have 1 point left, and then you can decide if you want to continue the recording or not.
Yeah.
This is something I think you cannot get in Germany. This is cheaper car insurance. I guess it is the same as before.
Yeah, I can't comment on that. I don't even have a driver's license. Don't need it. The
but
public
I think
transportation
in
system
Europe,
actually works very well. Yeah.
I think in Europe they like stopped having that because it was viewed as discriminatory. This is actually a win for MRA activists that they stopped having this difference in car insurance. But in some places I'm pretty sure they still have this difference, so it's like depending on where you live, it might or might not be like a benefit you can get.
Yeah, although what I want to say is I do not think that transmaxing is worth it for cheaper car insurance alone. I think that's a bit of a commitment for those couple bucks you get saved here. Especially because transitioning can get quite expensive at times. I can tell you all about that. I did the math. And the paying.
Yeah, the thing is, the reason why I had that point was that I knew that people will get pissed off about this, so I actually kept it there just to troll people a little. Like, it's not that this is like much of a benefit, but this is like a tiny benefit overall. And so I included it knowing that it will like make some people upset and share the transmaxing manifest out of rage, which did work to some extent. So this is why I keep it in, because people share it because I think it's ridiculous, but they don't really get that. If you look at this list, I actually ordered it from how important I think this point is. So it's actually lost in the list, which actually indicates that it's not really important. But people want to rage post about this stuff, so...
Yeah, it's perfectly alright that it's in there. I'm just... Yeah, I wouldn't do it because of car insurance.
Obviously, like nobody does, I think. I think what some people might do is if you have like self-id ID and stuff where you can just like very easily change your legal status without transitioning, then you might get cheaper car insurance that way. So
yeah, I would probably do that then, yeah.
Yeah, and I believe like for the so if you have like self-ID, it might be worth it for these reasons, but our device is not worth transitioning just to get stuff like that, because you pay more for your transition than what you save in.
Oh, definitely. Oh, definitely. I can tell you all about that. Actually, I didn't expect it to get that expensive. When I saw the numbers I calculated, I for one time just stopped and well, and I decided to continue because at the time I did those calculations I already had tits, so I was already too far in. Yeah, that was dumb. But yeah, I'm not regretting a thing. It's just something to be aware of. There is no such thing as a cheap transition. That's just what it is.
You can get the pretty cheap, to be honest. If you do like injections, monotherapy, and don't need surgery, it's not too expensive.
Yeah, sure. You can get injections, that's great. But what about hair removal, for example?
Yeah, the thing is, you can like remove it kind of yourself, probably.
Of course, because you want to shave 2 times a day. I can tell you that's not fun.
I was not talking about that. I was talking about using this painful method where you plug out your hair.
Yeah.
If you like wax yourself or something like that.
I mean, I am aware of some DIY hair removal efforts, permanent DIY hair removal efforts, but I for one would much rather have that done by a professional because of the pain involved and the risk of harming yourself. Like sometimes you just gotta give it to the professionals and say that they are better off.
And also, I would like to point out that not everyone really needs to remove hair anyway. Like they might not have hair that needs to be removed in the first place.
Don't all men grow facial hair? Or sorry, I should have said all people who start their life on testosterone. All male assigned at birth people. So sorry.
Yeah, if you like start early in life, you might not need it because you haven't like grown.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. But who has got that luxury, really? Like, I think by the time you realize you're an incel, or by the time you realize you want to transmax, I think that ship has sailed.
Yeah, it's actually a tight margin, a tight window if you just want to get laid and avoid being incel, because, as I said earlier, that by the time you like thinking, oh no, I cannot get a girlfriend, you might be like 22, 21, and that is like, it might be too late to pass, and you need like, if you're lucky, you can pass a bit of $40,000 surgery. Oh. If you're unlucky, it's way more than that if at all. So I think that's a general issue. I actually realized that, which I actually had to give up the transmaxing and targeting incels partly for that reason, that either they are like young and might be able to like get laid later, or if they are like old until the end is over for them, they cannot pass anyway. Or it's super
Even if they
expensive.
can't pass, wouldn't it be still perhaps wouldn't it still perhaps be an advantage that way around? Yeah, I can't form sentences.
Yeah, it might actually be better even if they cannot pass, to be honest. I'm not just sure about it because there's like no data and whatever. It's a lot harder to like sell transition to people who cannot pass it. I'm not really comfortable advocating for it in these cases because I don't want to have advocate for it and then have people transition and then they have like destroyed their life and whatever and then they like complain, so I don't really want to
Yes. I will refrain from advocating for that at this time. Although, well, I'm kind of in the process of trying so far. So I will let you know how it goes once I'm kind of, done with all the transition business.
Yeah, and I will say that in your case I think you will be able to pass eventually because
I hope so.
but the issue is that for people where there is pretty much no hope of that, I'm not comfortable like pushing for it because I want the transition that there is like a nice school in that there is like a light in the end of the tunnel, not a train but an opening. And if there is like this transition process that it doesn't go anywhere, I'm not really comfortable like advocating for it. Like I will not do it for myself at least.
You will not do what for yourself? You don't want to transition?
I will
Well,
not
I
like
know that.
transition if I don't feel like there will be like a good destination for me where and
Yes.
in my case it's not just about fasting. I want to have like fertility, and if I like transition to a female I will prefer like having like female fertility, which is like impossible right now.
Yeah.
But not everyone thinks like me, so I need to like it's kind of difficult because when I run this place I need to factor into that most people do not have my priorities. Even if some people might want similar things like me, they have a different values and stuff. So I try to be like inclusive for that and not just for my values and my ideology, because this is not really what this transmaxxing service is about. It's not about like my view only. This is like for all people who are looking to improve their lives. And they might have different views and political opinions and stuff, and I don't really see a problem with that. I think I will stop the recording now. It was nice talking to you.